God says, "Heaven has released your $1,000 check. Don't keep scrolling," daily prayer. When those words, "Heaven has released your $1,000 check, don't keep scrolling," floated across your screen a moment ago, what did you feel? Perhaps it was a flicker of hope, a spark of curiosity. Or maybe it was something else, a quiet sigh, a touch of weariness, a healthy, well-earned skepticism. Here we go again, maybe you thought. And if you did, I want you to know that it's completely understandable, because we're living in 2025. It's a time where the cost of a single cart of groceries can genuinely take your breath away. A time where filling up the gas tank feels like it's working against every effort you make to save. We work hard, we try to do the right thing, and yet there's often this quiet, nagging feeling that it's still not quite enough. We find ourselves scrolling late at night, not always sure what we're looking for, maybe just a little bit of good news, a small sign of hope in a world that feels increasingly heavy. So, when a message promises $1,000 falling from the sky, it sounds wonderful, but it can also sound a little out of touch with the reality we face every single day. It can feel like a promise that's too simple for our complex lives. And that's why we need to pause here. The real question isn't, is God actually going to mail me a check for $1,000? The real question, the one that truly matters for us right now, is this: what is this message truly trying to tell me, right here, in the middle of all my worries? Let's look for a deeper answer together, an answer that won't leave us feeling disappointed, but instead might leave us feeling seen, understood, and truly provided for in the ways that matter most. Unpacking the metaphor. What is the heavenly check, truly? So, let's sit with that question for a moment. Let's look for that deeper answer together. Imagine, if you will, that this heavenly check isn't a promise of paper currency. Imagine it's not signed with ink, but is signed with grace. Imagine it's not drawn from a worldly bank, subject to inflation and market swings, but from an infinite spiritual treasury that never runs dry. The number itself, $1,000, is so specific, isn't it? In many ancient spiritual texts, the number 1,000 wasn't always meant to be a literal count. It was often a symbol, a piece of poetry representing something vast, complete, and significant. It meant more than just some help. It meant enough. It was a way of saying, a blessing so full it will cover your needs completely. So, if this complete, significant provision isn't arriving in a white envelope with a stamp, how is it being delivered into the fabric of our daily lives? Well, it often comes in currencies far more valuable than cash. It arrives as different kinds of checks, deposited directly into the account of our soul, each one designed to meet a need that money can't address. Let's take the time to look at them, one by one. First, and perhaps most precious in our noisy, anxious world, there is the check of peace. Think about those mornings, the ones where you wake up before the sun, and the day's worries rush in to greet you before your feet even touch the floor. The list of concerns, the unpaid bills, the health of a loved one, it can feel like a physical weight on your chest. But then, there are other mornings. Mornings where you wake up, and for no reason you can explain, that weight is lighter. The problems on your list haven't magically disappeared. The world outside is still just as chaotic, but something inside you has shifted. That is the cashing of the check of peace. It's the inexplicable calm that settles over you in the middle of a traffic jam. It's the ability to take a slow, deep breath in a tense doctor's waiting room and feel your shoulders relax. This check doesn't pay the mortgage, but it restores your sanity. It gives you back the quiet, internal real estate that worry has been occupying. It's the profound, non-negotiable wealth of a settled spirit. Next, there is the invaluable deposit of the check of clarity. Have you ever felt lost in a fog of indecision? You wrestle with a problem for days, maybe weeks. You make lists of pros and cons. You ask friends for advice. You lie awake at night, turning it over and over, and still no answer comes. You feel stuck. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, while you're doing something completely mundane like walking to the mailbox or watering your plants, an idea arrives. It lands in your mind fully formed, so simple and clear. It feels like it was always there. That is the check of clarity being deposited. It's the sudden insight that shows you how to approach a difficult conversation with your child. It's the flash of inspiration for a project you'd given up on. It's the gut feeling that tells you which path to take when you stand at a crossroads. This check might not have a dollar amount written on it, but a single moment of true clarity can alter the course of your life. It's heaven's compass, placed gently into your hand, not showing you the whole map, but simply showing you the next right step. Then there is the deeply nourishing check of connection. We live in a world that, ironically, has never been more connected by technology, yet we can often feel profoundly alone. This check is the antidote to that loneliness. It almost always arrives through other people, often in the smallest of gestures. It's the text message from a friend checking in, which happens to arrive on the exact anniversary of a loss you were quietly carrying in your heart. It's the way your spouse wordlessly hands you a cup of coffee in the morning, a small act that says, "I see you, and I'm here." It's the unexpected kindness of a stranger in the grocery store line. It's the sound of your grandchild's laughter filling the house. These moments are the deposits. They fill a space in our souls that no amount of success or material possessions can ever hope to reach. They are the tangible, breathable evidence that we are part of something larger than ourselves, that we are seen, that we are loved, and that we are not forgotten. And finally, there is the steadfast, enduring check of resilience. This isn't a one-time payment. Think of it as a direct deposit that renews itself just when your account is about to run dry. Resilience is the spiritual capital that allows you to endure what feels unendurable. It's the mysterious strength you find to get out of bed on the morning after receiving bad news. It's the courage you discover to face another round of treatment, another difficult family gathering, another day of searching for work. It's that quiet, stubborn inner voice that, even when you feel like giving up, whispers, "Just one more step." This check doesn't prevent the storms of life from coming. It doesn't promise a life free of hardship. Instead, it provides the spiritual shelter and the inner fortitude to stand firm in the storm. It's the profound assurance, not that you will be spared from the fire, but that you will be able to walk through it without being consumed. These are the checks that heaven is truly releasing. They are being issued constantly, not just to a select few, but to anyone with a heart quiet enough to notice them. The real wealth isn't waiting for us in some distant future. It's being deposited into our lives right now, in these quiet, profound, and life-sustaining ways. Acknowledging your spiritual account. Now, you might be listening to all of this and thinking, "That sounds lovely, but those moments feel few and far between in my life." It's easy to feel that way, especially when you're in a season of struggle. But there's another crucial layer to this idea of a heavenly check. These divine deposits of peace, clarity, connection, and resilience. They don't just appear out of thin air. They are often the dividends paid out from a spiritual account you've been funding your entire life, perhaps without even realizing it. Think of it like this. Your life has a spiritual ledger, a divine accounting book, and for years you have been making deposits. You may have thought many of those years were spent just trying to get by, just surviving. You might look back and see only effort, toil, and maybe even what felt like unanswered prayers. But in heaven's accounting, nothing is ever wasted. Not a single act of kindness goes unnoticed. Not one quiet prayer, whispered in the dark of night, goes unheard. Not one tear of sorrow or frustration is forgotten. Ancient scripture beautifully describes this, saying that God collects our tears in a bottle. What a powerful image. It means that even our pain has value. Even our grief is recorded as something precious. So, let's take a moment now to look back, not with regret, but with a new kind of awareness. Let's audit your spiritual account together. Think back to those times when you gave, even when you had little to spare. That time you shared your meal with someone who had less, or slipped a $20 bill to a family member who was struggling, even when your own budget was tight. In the eyes of the world, that might have been a small transaction, but in heaven's ledger, that was a major deposit. That was you, investing with the currency of generosity. Think of those long nights, the nights you sat by the bedside of a sick parent or a restless child, sacrificing your own sleep, the hours you spent on the phone, listening to a friend pour out their heart, even when you were exhausted yourself. You weren't just passing the time, you were making a deposit, funded by the currency of compassion. Think of the hard choices you've made, those moments when you could have taken a shortcut, bent the rules, or participated in gossip, but you chose the higher road. The times you chose integrity when no one was watching. The times you offered forgiveness to someone who didn't necessarily deserve it, because you knew that holding on to bitterness was a heavier burden. Every single one of those decisions was a powerful deposit, made with the currency of character. And think of your faithfulness, your quiet persistence. All those mornings you got up and faced the day, even when you didn't feel like it. The years you showed up for your family, for your work, for your community. The prayers you kept offering, even during those long seasons when heaven felt silent. That wasn't just you going through the motions, that was you, consistently, day after day, making deposits with the most valuable currency of all, faithfulness. Modern psychology has a term for what happens when people go through difficult times and come out stronger, wiser, and more compassionate on the other side. They call it post-traumatic growth. It's the recognition that hardship, when navigated with courage and heart, can produce a profound inner wealth. This is a scientific way of describing a timeless spiritual truth. Your struggles have been investments, your scars have earned interest. So, this heavenly check, we're talking about the peace that calms you, the clarity that guides you, the resilience that strengthens you. It isn't some random lottery prize that falls from the sky. It is the dividend being paid out on the rich, substantial spiritual capital that you, yourself, have built over a lifetime. It is the harvest from seeds you planted years, even decades ago. It is the interest earned on the currency of your own faithfulness, your own compassion, your own character. When you feel that moment of peace, recognize it not as a fluke, but as the return on your investment of enduring through chaos. When that idea of clarity arrives, see it as the dividend from all the times you chose to seek wisdom. When you experience that bond of connection, know that it is the interest paid on a lifetime of showing up for others. And when you feel that resilience welling up inside you, understand that it is the strength forged in the fires you have already walked through. You are not spiritually bankrupt. Your account is full, and these heavenly checks are simply heaven's way of reminding you of the incredible wealth you already possess. The true distractions, identifying the thieves of your inheritance. So, we've established this beautiful truth. Your spiritual account is full, rich with the deposits of a lifetime. The checks of peace, clarity, connection, and resilience are being issued to you, drawn from the wealth of your own character and faithfulness. This brings us to a critical part of our conversation. The original message that started all of this had a warning in it, didn't it? It said, "Don't keep scrolling, don't walk away." It implies that there's a risk of missing the blessing. But what are we being warned against, really? What is it that can prevent us from cashing these checks that are rightfully ours? In ancient stories, the enemy is often portrayed as an external force, a devil on our shoulder. But in our modern lives, the greatest thieves of our spiritual inheritance are often much closer to home. They are the invisible intruders that live right inside our own minds, the subtle patterns of thought and feeling that rob us of our peace before we even realize what's happening. If we want to protect the inheritance we've worked so hard to build, we need to learn to recognize these thieves. Let's give them a name, shall we? Let's bring them out into the light. The first, and perhaps the most common in our hyper-connected world, is the thief of comparison. This thief is incredibly subtle. It doesn't break down the door. It slips in through the screen of your phone or the window of your television. It whispers to you as you scroll through social media, showing you curated, picture-perfect moments from other people's lives, the new car, the exotic vacation, the happy family portrait. And it tells you a story. Look at them. Their lives are better, easier, more blessed than yours. You're behind. You haven't done enough. Your life, island, lacking. Comparison is the sworn enemy of gratitude. It's impossible to be thankful for the quiet beauty of your own backyard when your mind is busy envying someone else's beachfront property. This thief makes you focus so intently on the heavenly checks being delivered to other people's mailboxes that you fail to see the ones sitting right on your own kitchen table. It steals your joy not by taking anything tangible, but by convincing you that what you have is not enough. It's the voice that creates the imposter syndrome, that feeling that you don't really deserve your successes while everyone else seems to have it all figured out. It is a quiet poison to the soul. Next, there is its very impatient cousin, the thief of impatience. We live in a world built for instant gratification. We have same-day delivery, on-demand movies, and instant coffee. We've been trained to expect results now. And this thief uses that training against our spiritual lives. It tells us that if a prayer isn't answered immediately, it won't be answered at all. If a problem isn't solved by tomorrow, it's a permanent fixture. When you're waiting for a doctor's report, for a child to come back home, for a financial situation to turn around, this is the voice that says, "This is taking too long, it's not working. God must have forgotten you. It's time to give up." It creates anxiety and panic where there needs to be trust and patience. It tempts you to abandon your post right before the relief arrives. It forgets the universal truth of every farmer and gardener. Good things take time to grow. Impatience wants to dig up the seed every 5 minutes to see if it's sprouting, and in doing so, it ensures that it never will. It urges you to walk away from the counter just as your name is about to be called. And finally, there is perhaps the most dangerous of the three, the thief of cynicism. This thief often disguises itself as wisdom or realism. It's the voice that has been hurt before and has vowed never to be hurt again. It's the accumulated disappointment of a lifetime, hardened into a protective shell. Cynicism is the voice that scoffs at hope. When a new opportunity arises, it's the first one to list all the reasons it will probably fail. When someone shows you kindness, it whispers, "What do they want from you?" It reviews your past failures and uses them as evidence that your future will be no different. This thief builds a high, thick brick wall around your heart, brick by brick, disappointment by disappointment. It does this in the name of protecting you, of keeping you from being let down again. But a fortress designed to keep out pain also, by its very nature, keeps out joy. It keeps out connection. It keeps out grace. No heavenly check, no matter how valuable, can be delivered to a heart that has been sealed shut. Cynicism is the ultimate inheritance blocker, because it convinces you that there is no inheritance to begin with. Comparison, impatience, cynicism. These are the true distractions. This is the unholy trinity that works to keep you scrolling endlessly through a life of discontent. The first and most powerful step in defeating them is simply to name them. When you feel that familiar pang of envy, you can pause and say, "Ah, that's the thief of comparison talking." When you feel that frantic urge to give up, you can recognize it. That's the voice of impatience. When a wave of negativity tries to drown out a glimmer of hope, you can identify it. That is cynicism, and it is not my true voice. Simply identifying these thieves is like turning on the lights in a dark room. It doesn't instantly make them disappear, but it takes away their power to move around in the shadows, unnoticed. It's the beginning of reclaiming your home, of protecting the priceless spiritual inheritance that is, and has always been, rightfully yours. So, we've identified the thieves. We've brought comparison, impatience, and cynicism out into the light, and in doing so, we've begun to reclaim our power over them. We've acknowledged the incredible wealth that already exists in our spiritual accounts, deposited there by a lifetime of faithfulness. This brings us to the final, crucial step in this process. Think about a physical check. A check can be written out for $1 million, signed by the most trustworthy person in the world, and delivered right to your hand. But until you do one simple thing, it remains just a piece of paper. It has potential, but no actual power in your life. You have to endorse it. You have to sign your name on the back. It is the exact same with these heavenly checks. The provision of peace, the gift of clarity, the strength of resilience, they have all been issued. They have been released. But for them to become a tangible currency in your daily life, they require your endorsement. In the spiritual life, that signature is called faith. Now, faith is a word that can feel complicated, but let's simplify it. This isn't about blind belief or pretending you don't have doubts. Active faith, the kind that endorses a heavenly check, is simply a series of small, conscious choices. It is your active participation in the process of blessing. So, when do you sign your name on the back of these checks? You sign the check of peace when you are surrounded by chaos, and you consciously choose to take 5 deep, slow breaths instead of letting panic take over. That is your signature. You sign the check of clarity when that good, intuitive idea pops into your head, and instead of dismissing it out of fear or self-doubt, you take one small, practical step to explore it. You make the phone call, you write the first paragraph, you clear out the garage. That action is your signature. You sign the check of connection when you feel lonely, and instead of retreating further into isolation, you choose to be the one who reaches out first. You send the text. You offer the word of encouragement to someone else. In giving connection, you endorse the check for yourself. That is your signature. You sign the check of resilience when you wake up feeling utterly defeated, but you choose to get out of bed and face the day anyway. That simple act of showing up one more time is your powerful, defiant signature. Heaven's provision has already been released. It is all around you, woven into the fabric of your moments, waiting for the endorsement of your attention, your gratitude, and your courageous action. You are not a passive recipient in this process. You are an active partner. These reflections are, of course, just the beginning. Every life is a unique story of blessing, a different ledger of grace. And that is why I genuinely want to hear from you. The power of this community lies in our shared stories. So, I invite you to take a moment and share in the comments section below. In what form has a heavenly check shown up in your life recently? It doesn't have to be dramatic. Maybe it was a moment of unexpected peace, a kind word from a stranger, or a sudden solution to a small problem. Your story, no matter how simple it seems, might be the very check of connection that another person listening right now needs to receive today. And if this first part of our journey has resonated with you, if it has offered you a moment of comfort or a new perspective, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss the next parts of our conversation, where we will explore how we can actively cultivate our hearts and minds to receive these blessings every single day. The Daily Prayer, Cultivating the Garden of Your Soul. In the first part of our conversation, we journeyed together to a new understanding. We discovered that the promise of a $1,000 heavenly check wasn't about a literal windfall of cash, but about a rich, metaphorical currency of grace. We learned to recognize the deposits of peace, clarity, connection, and resilience that are being made into our lives all the time. But acknowledging this truth, even feeling the profound hope it brings, is one thing. Living in the daily awareness of it, well, that's another challenge entirely. It's one thing to have a moment of clarity, a mountaintop experience where everything feels connected and purposeful. It's quite another to carry that clarity down into the valley of our everyday lives, into the traffic jams, the stressful meetings, and the endless to-do lists. How do we keep the eyes of our soul open amidst the constant distractions of the world? How do we protect our spiritual inheritance from those thieves of comparison and impatience we talked about? How do we make this awareness not just a fleeting insight, but a lived reality? The answer, my friends, is found in the second half of our title today, in a practice as ancient as humanity itself, yet as fresh as every new sunrise: the daily prayer. Now, I know that for many, the word prayer can bring up complicated feelings, but I want to invite you to set aside any old ideas you might have about it for a moment. Let's think of it in a new way, especially as an adult navigating the complexities of the 21st century. This isn't about a mechanical ritual or a religious duty. This is about something far more organic and essential. This is about the daily act of cultivating the garden of your soul. Redefining prayer, beyond the wish list to a daily conversation. For so many of us, our prayer life, if we can even call it that, feels more like a spiritual emergency room. It's the place we rush to only when there's a crisis, a scary diagnosis, a financial shortfall, a family member in trouble. We burst through the doors, breathless and panicked, laying out our urgent requests. We plead, we bargain, we hope for a miraculous, immediate intervention. And then, if that immediate fix doesn't arrive exactly as we requested, what happens? We often walk away disappointed. We feel unheard, perhaps even a little foolish for having hoped in the first place. The silence we receive in return feels like a rejection, and so we conclude that maybe this whole prayer thing just doesn't work. But what if we've been using the wrong model all along? What if prayer was never designed to be the emergency room of our spiritual house? What if, instead, it was meant to be the warm, quiet kitchen? The kitchen is the heart of a home. It's not a place you visit only in a crisis. It's where you go every single day. You go there in the morning for nourishment to start your day. You go there in the evening to prepare a meal that will sustain you. It's a place of quiet rhythm, of presence, of conversation. It's where you connect, where you are fed, where you are restored, day in and day out. This shift in metaphor is everything. The revolutionary change in our spiritual lives happens the moment we stop treating prayer as a wish list and start treating it as a conversation. Think about the difference. A wish list is a monologue. It's a one-way transmission of our wants and desires. We write it, we send it off, and we wait. The entire focus is on the outcome, on what we will get. A conversation, on the other hand, is a dialogue. It's a two-way exchange. In a real conversation, we speak, but just as importantly, we also listen. We share what's on our mind, but we also create space to hear another's perspective. The focus isn't just on the outcome, the focus is on the relationship itself. The connection is the point. This is the great invitation of a mature spiritual life. It is the difference, as one wise writer put it, between talking at God and walking with God. When we see prayer as a conversation, it liberates us from the pressure of having to say the right things. In a close, trusted relationship, you don't need fancy words. You can be honest. You can be yourself. You can show up tired, confused, or even angry. You can celebrate small joys, and you can voice your deepest fears. The great spiritual thinker C.S. Lewis once described prayer not as a way to influence God, but as a way to admit the real state of affairs. It's an act of radical honesty. This kind of prayer isn't about getting a specific result. It's about cultivating a specific state of being, a state of connection. It's what a 17th century monk named Brother Lawrence famously called practicing the presence of God. He found he could have this ongoing conversation not just in a chapel, but while washing dishes in the monastery kitchen. He learned to do his daily work with a quiet awareness of a divine companion, turning the most mundane tasks into moments of connection. This changes everything. It means that prayer is no longer a transaction where we might be disappointed. Instead, it becomes a relationship where we are always received. The goal is no longer to get heaven to listen to us, but for us to learn how to listen to heaven, to notice those checks of peace and clarity that are being sent our way. It's no longer an emergency measure, but a daily source of nourishment for the soul, as essential and as life-giving as the food we eat and the air we breathe. The 4 Chambers of the Praying Heart, a practical guide. So, if prayer is a daily, life-giving conversation, how do we begin? What do we say? The beautiful thing is, there are no magic words. The only requirement is sincerity. But sometimes, having a framework can help, especially when we are building a new habit. Let's think of the praying heart as having 4 distinct chambers, like the chambers of the physical heart. A healthy, balanced prayer life involves visiting and nourishing all 4 of these chambers regularly. Each one connects directly to the heavenly checks we talked about, giving us a practical way to endorse them every single day. Let's walk through them together, and for each one, I'll offer a simple sample prayer. Please know, these are not scripts to be memorized, but simply starting points, like a key to open the door to each chamber. Feel free to use these words, or, even better, let them inspire you to find your own. Our journey begins in the first chamber, the very foundation of the praying heart, the prayer of gratitude. This is where we learn to consciously endorse the check of connection. Before we ask for anything, before we present our problems, we pause. We take a moment to simply notice the grace that is already present. This isn't about ignoring our difficulties. It's about choosing where we place our focus first. Gratitude recalibrates our entire being. Modern neuroscience has shown us that a consistent practice of gratitude can literally rewire our brains, creating new neural pathways that make it easier for us to experience joy and contentment. It is the spiritual practice of noticing the good that is already here. To enter this chamber, we can start with a simple question. Today, what was a moment of grace? What brought me a flicker of light, no matter how small? Then, we give voice to it. A simple prayer of gratitude might sound something like this. Good morning. Before this day gets busy, I just want to pause and say thank you. Thank you for the simple gift of waking up today, for the breath in my lungs and the feeling of the floor beneath my feet. Thank you for the taste of this first cup of coffee, for the warmth it brings to my hands. Thank you for the quiet of this early hour before the world starts making its demands. I'm grateful for the roof over my head and the safety of my home. Thank you for the people in my life who love me. You might name them silently here. Forgive me for the times I take these simple, profound gifts for granted. Today, help me to walk with eyes open to the small wonders. Amen. From the foundation of gratitude, we find the courage to enter the second chamber, a place we often avoid, the prayer of lament. This is the sacred space where we validate the check of resilience. A genuine spiritual life is not one of constant, forced positivity. It is one of unflinching honesty. This chamber of the heart is where we are invited to bring our authentic pain, our disappointments, our fears, our anger, our grief without shame or apology. True faith isn't the absence of doubt or struggle. It's the willingness to bring that doubt and struggle into the conversation. You only share your deepest hurts with someone you truly trust. Therefore, a prayer of lament is one of the deepest acts of faith. The book of Psalms, the prayer book of the Bible, is filled with these raw, honest cries. The psalmists show us that it is okay to question, to feel abandoned, and to pour out our hearts completely. Entering this chamber requires honesty. It means giving your pain a voice. A prayer of lament might sound like this: God, I need to be honest. Today my heart is heavy. I feel overwhelmed by. Name the specific struggle. I'm trying to be strong, but right now I just feel tired and discouraged. I feel frustrated that this situation isn't changing. I feel afraid of what might happen next. I don't understand why this is happening, and I feel a little bit lost. I'm not asking for a magic solution right now. I'm just asking you to sit with me in this feeling, to let me know I'm not alone in this struggle. Please, just be with me. Amen. After we have grounded ourselves in gratitude and been honest about our struggles, we are ready to enter the third chamber, the prayer of guidance. This is where we actively seek to endorse the check of clarity. This is the chamber of humility, where we admit that we don't have all the answers and that our own perspective is limited. So often, our prayers for guidance are actually disguised requests for a specific outcome that we have already decided is best. But a true prayer for guidance is an opening, not a closing. It's about asking for a compass, not a detailed map with a predetermined destination. This requires a subtle but powerful shift in our language and our posture. It's a move from dictating terms to seeking wisdom. A prayer of guidance might sound like this: I find myself at a crossroads regarding, name the situation. My own mind is going in circles, and I feel stuck. I have my own desires and fears about how this will turn out, but I want to be open to your wisdom, which is greater than my own. So today, I'm not asking for a specific answer. Instead, I'm asking for a quiet heart to listen. I'm asking for clarity. Please, help me to see this situation not just through my own eyes, but through yours. Guide my thoughts, my words, and my actions. Show me the next right step, even if it's just a small one. Give me the wisdom to know the path and the courage to walk it. Amen. Finally, we arrive at the innermost chamber of the heart, the prayer of surrender. This is where we learn the ultimate act of faith, the one that allows us to finally cash the check of peace. This chamber is for the things we cannot change, the outcomes we cannot control, the people we cannot fix. After we have been grateful, after we have been honest with our pain, after we have sought guidance, we will inevitably come to the limits of our own power. This is not a moment of failure, it is a sacred threshold. Surrender is not giving up in defeat, it is giving over in trust. It's the conscious choice to release our tight, anxious grip and place the situation into hands that are larger, stronger, and more capable than our own. It's a principle known well by anyone who has found peace in recovery programs, letting go of what is not ours to control. A prayer of surrender is often simple, a final exhale of the soul. It might sound like this: and now, regarding the situation you cannot control, I have done everything I know how to do. I have thought, I have planned, I have worried, and I have acted. And now, I have reached the end of my own strength and my own wisdom. It is no longer in my hands. So, with a deep breath, I release it. I release my need to control the outcome. I release my anxiety about how it will all turn out. I surrender this entire situation to you. I trust your timing. I trust your goodness. I trust your plan. My part is done. The rest is yours. May your peace, which is beyond all my understanding, guard my heart and my mind. Amen. When heaven feels silent, navigating the seasons of spiritual dryness. Now, everything we've just discussed, this beautiful, four-chambered conversation of the heart, sounds wonderful in theory. And there are seasons in our lives when this connection feels real, vibrant, and close. We feel heard. We see the evidence of grace around us. But we need to be honest. There are other seasons too. There are days, sometimes weeks, sometimes even months or years, when we speak into the silence and hear only an echo. Seasons when our prayers seem to hit a brass ceiling and fall back to the ground, unanswered. Times when heaven feels distant, quiet, and profoundly silent. If you have ever felt this way, please hear this. You are not alone. This is not a sign that you have failed or that your faith is broken. This experience of spiritual dryness is a normal, natural, and even necessary part of a mature spiritual journey. Some of the greatest spiritual figures in history have written extensively about this. They called it the dark night of the soul. Mother Teresa, a modern-day saint admired by the entire world, confessed in her private letters, published only after her death, that she experienced this feeling of divine silence for nearly 50 years of her ministry. 50 years. Yet she continued her work with unwavering love and dedication. So, what is happening in these silent seasons? It's easy to interpret this silence as absence, as abandonment. But what if it's something else entirely? Sometimes, silence is not an absence. Sometimes, silence is an invitation. Think of the natural world. A farmer plants a seed in the dark earth. For a long time, nothing appears to be happening on the surface. The ground is silent, still, and seemingly barren. But is it lifeless? No. Beneath the surface, in the quiet darkness, the most crucial work is being done. Roots are taking hold, pushing down deep into the soil, establishing a foundation that will be strong enough to support the growth that is to come. Our spiritual lives are much the same. These seasons of silence are often our spiritual winters. On the surface, things may feel cold and dormant. We may not feel the warmth of the sun or see the vibrant colors of spring, but beneath the surface, our spiritual roots are being invited to grow deeper. Perhaps in these seasons, the purpose of prayer is not to change our outward circumstances, but to profoundly change us. This silence cultivates our perseverance. It's easy to have faith when we're getting constant positive reinforcement. It's much harder and much more meaningful to keep showing up, to keep tending the garden of our soul when we see no immediate results. This builds a spiritual muscle, a steadfastness that is forged only in the quiet of waiting. This silence also purifies our motives. When we aren't getting anything tangible from our prayers, no feelings of ecstasy, no immediate answers, we are forced to ask ourselves, why am I really here? Am I seeking a relationship with the divine, or am I just seeking the benefits that relationship might bring? This season teaches us to love the presence of God more than the presence from God. It moves us from a transactional faith to a truly relational one. And most importantly, this silence teaches us to walk by faith and not by feeling. Our feelings are fickle. They change with the weather, with our health, with the news of the day. If our connection to the divine is dependent on our feelings, it will be an unstable foundation. But a faith that can endure silence, a faith that can continue to trust in the goodness and presence of God, even when it cannot be felt, is a faith that has become unshakable. It is a faith rooted in choice, not emotion. So, if you find yourself in a season of winter right now, if heaven feels silent to you, do not despair. You are not being punished or ignored. You are in the rich, dark soil where deep roots grow. Your job in this season is not to frantically try to produce fruit. Your job is simply to remain. Continue the quiet rhythms. Visit the four chambers of your heart, even if it feels like you're just going through the motions. Offer your gratitude, even for the smallest things. Voice your lament and your honest feelings about the silence itself. Humbly ask for guidance, and gently, day by day, practice surrender. Like a patient farmer, you must trust that the sun will return. You must trust that the life is still there, working silently, powerfully, deep beneath the surface. Your winter will not last forever. Weaving a daily rhythm, from chore to cherished ritual. Now, after exploring all of this, the 4 chambers of the heart, the seasons of spiritual dryness, it's possible to feel a little overwhelmed. You might be thinking, this is a beautiful idea, but how do I possibly fit it into my already busy life? The answer is simple. You start small. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You don't need to become a prayer warrior overnight. All you need is 5 minutes. The secret to building any new habit is to make it easy and sustainable. So, here are a few simple ways to weave this sacred rhythm into your day, to transform it from a chore into a cherished ritual. First, attach it to an existing habit. Think about something you already do every single day without fail. Maybe it's brewing your first cup of coffee, or sitting in your car for a moment after you park at work, or brushing your teeth before bed. Simply decide that for 5 minutes, right before or right after that established habit, you will pause. You will sit in silence. You will visit one of the chambers of your heart. By linking the new habit to an old one, you create a natural trigger for it. Second, find your space. It doesn't need to be a formal chapel. It just needs to be a place where you can have a moment of relative quiet. It could be your favorite armchair by the window. It could be a quiet corner of your backyard or your porch. For many people, it's the driver's seat of their parked car. Designate a simple space that, in your mind, becomes your place to connect. And finally, and most importantly, remember this: it's not about perfection, it's about presence. This is not a performance. You are not being graded. There will be days when your mind wanders. There will be days when you feel nothing. There will be days when your prayer is nothing more than a deep, weary sigh. That's okay. A sigh is a prayer. A single, heartfelt help is a prayer. God understands the language of the heart far better than the language of eloquent words. The goal is not a perfect prayer, but a present heart. Just show up. That's all that's required. This practice is a personal journey, but it becomes even more powerful when it's shared. To begin this practice of visiting the 4 chambers of the heart right now, I want to invite you to start with the very first one: gratitude. Please, take a moment and share in the comments section below. Today, what is one thing, just one small thing, that you are grateful for? It can be anything at all. By writing it down, you not only reinforce that blessing for yourself, but your words may also serve as a gentle reminder to someone else, helping them to notice a blessing in their own life. Let's start a ripple of gratitude together, right here. And of course, if this conversation has been meaningful to you, please take a moment to like this video. It's a simple act that helps this message reach other hearts and souls who might be needing to hear it today. Thank you for being a part of that. And so, we have learned to cultivate this inner garden. Through the daily rhythm of prayer, we learn to tend to the soil of our souls, to pull the weeds of anxiety, and to water the seeds of hope. We learn to find our nourishment and our strength from a source deep within. But a well-tended garden doesn't exist only for itself. A healthy tree doesn't bear fruit just for its own consumption. Its very purpose is to offer its shade and its nourishment to the world around it. This brings us to the final, most important turn in our journey together. We have moved from recognizing the blessing to receiving the blessing. Now, we must ask the ultimate question. Once our own hearts are filled, what do we do with the overflow? In our final section, we will explore the most profound purpose of a blessed life, not just to have a blessing, but to become one. We will discover how to take the peace, the clarity, and the resilience we have cultivated and learn how to share it, becoming a conduit of grace in a world that so desperately needs it. Living the blessing, becoming a conduit of grace in a world that needs it. Up to this point in our journey, we've learned to draw from the deep well of prayer, finding peace, clarity, and strength that anchor our lives. But the story of blessing doesn't stop with what we receive, it expands outward. Think of it this way, a river. It is only alive when it keeps moving, flowing beyond its source, bringing life wherever it travels. In the same way, a blessing is not meant to be stored up, but to move through us, refreshing, nourishing, and transforming the places it touches. This is the turning point, the shift from asking, "How can I receive?" to the deeper, more beautiful question of maturity. How do I become a blessing? 3 ways to spend your heavenly wealth. So, how do we make this profound shift from receiving a blessing to being one? It sounds like a grand, abstract idea, but in reality, it is built upon the foundation of small, simple, intentional actions. It's about learning how to spend the spiritual currency we have received. Remember those heavenly checks we spoke of? Peace, clarity, and resilience. We've learned to recognize and receive them. Now, let's explore, with care and detail, how to generously spend them for the good of others. Here are 3 practical, life-altering ways. First, we learn to spend the check of peace by offering the world the profoundly simple gift of presence. We live in an age of chronic distraction. Our minds are pulled in 1,000 directions at once by notifications, news alerts, and the endless scroll of information. Everyone is busy, everyone is multitasking, and as a result, a deep sense of loneliness and feeling unseen has settled over our culture. Because of this, perhaps the rarest, most countercultural, and most healing gift you can give another human being is your undivided, non-judgmental attention. You spend your check of peace not by dispensing advice, not by trying to fix someone's problems, and not by rushing to share your own similar story. You spend it simply by being fully with them. Imagine your adult child or a dear friend is telling you about a struggle at work or a deep worry in their heart. The temptation is to immediately jump in with solutions or reassurances. But to give the gift of presence means you resist that urge. Instead, you put your phone down, turn it over so the screen is dark. You turn away from the television. You lean in slightly. You look them in the eye, and you just listen. You listen with your whole being. You listen to the words they are saying, and you listen to the feelings behind the words. You listen without interrupting, without finishing their sentences. You listen not with the goal of formulating a response, but with the sole intention of understanding. You offer small nods, a quiet, "I see," or the powerful question, "Can you tell me more about that?" In that moment, something sacred happens. Your calm, focused, accepting presence creates an oasis in their chaotic world. It is a non-verbal declaration that says, "You are safe here. You matter. What you are feeling is valid. I am not going to run away from your pain. You are becoming a human sanctuary." When you offer this gift, you are spending the very peace you have cultivated in your own soul. You are becoming a quiet island of calm in the noisy, anxious sea of their life. You don't have to have the right words to be a blessing. You just have to offer a present heart. Second, we learn to spend the check of clarity by sharing the light of wisdom. If you are listening to this, you are a library of lived experience. Think of the volumes you hold within you. You have chapters on joy and on grief, on success and on failure. You have learned things about love, loss, forgiveness, and perseverance that can only be learned by walking the path yourself. These lessons, earned through decades of life, are not just your memories, they are a treasure. and a treasure is meant to be shared, not buried. You spend your check of clarity when you offer your hard-won wisdom with humility, timing, and grace. This is not about giving unsolicited lectures or starting sentences with, "Well, back in my day." It's about watching for those moments when a gentle word of experience can illuminate the path for someone walking a few steps behind you. Perhaps you see a younger colleague at work struggling with the sting of a professional setback. You might pull them aside and say, "You know, something very similar happened to me about 20 years ago. I thought my career was over. Let me tell you what I learned from it." You're not diminishing their pain. You're offering them a map that shows a way through it. Maybe you see a young parent in your family, overwhelmed and exhausted, convinced they are failing. You might choose a quiet moment to tell them, "I want you to know, you are doing a wonderful job. I remember feeling exactly the way you do right now. This season is so hard, but it will not last forever. You are a great parent." That simple validation can be the fuel they need to keep going. Or maybe it's just looking a grandchild in the eye after they've shared a wild, beautiful dream that seems impossible, and instead of expressing doubt, you say with conviction, "I believe you have it in you to do that." When you use your life experience not to boast, but to build up, not to criticize, but to encourage, you are spending your check of clarity. You are becoming a lighthouse for a ship that is trying to navigate a foggy, treacherous harbor. Your story becomes the light that helps them avoid the rocks and find their way home. And third, we learn to spend the check of resilience by lending your strength to others. The inner strength you possess today was not acquired easily. It was forged in the fires of your own trials, tempered by your own tears, and strengthened through the very heartbreaks you thought would break you. That resilience was given to you for two reasons. First, so that you could stand firm through the storms of your own life, and second, so that you could become a source of strength for others to lean on in theirs. Your stability is a gift. Your steadfastness is a profound resource. You spend your check of resilience in the thousand small, practical acts of showing up for people. It's the quiet decision to cook a simple meal, a pot of soup, a lasagna, and drop it on the doorstep of a neighbor who is sick or who has just lost a loved one. It requires no grand speech. The meal itself is a prayer that says, "I am with you." It's the phone call you make to a friend who is going through a divorce or a long-term illness. You might not know what to say, so you simply start with, "I don't have any magic words, but I wanted you to hear my voice and know that I am thinking of you." Your presence on the other end of the line becomes a lifeline for them. It's the quiet confidence you project in a tense family meeting when everyone else is spinning out in anxiety. Your calm, steady presence can anchor the entire room. And perhaps most powerfully, it's looking at someone you love who is drowning in self-doubt, someone who has lost faith in themselves, and being the person who holds that faith for them. It's saying, with unwavering conviction, "I know you don't feel it right now, but I do. I have seen what you are made of. I've seen you handle tough things before. You've got this, and I am not going anywhere." When you use the strength you've gained from your own battles to steady someone who is trembling in theirs, you are spending your check of resilience in the most beautiful way possible. You are becoming the strong, sturdy oak tree that offers shelter to others in their storm. You are living proof that it is possible not only to survive, but to then use that survival to help others thrive. The paradox of blessing: the more you give, the more you have. Now, as we talk about spending our spiritual wealth in these ways, offering presents, sharing wisdom, lending strength, a very logical question might arise in the back of your mind. It's a question born from a lifetime of living in a material world with material rules. The question is this: if I give all this away, what will be left for me? Won't I run out? It's a fair question. In the physical world, the laws of economics are straightforward. If you have $10 and you give $5 away, you are left with 5. If you have a full cup of coffee and you pour half of it into a friend's mug, your cup is now half empty, giving results in having less. This is the fundamental math of a finite world. But here, as we approach the very heart of our spiritual journey, we encounter one of the most beautiful, stunning, and liberating paradoxes of the universe. We discover that the economy of grace operates on a completely different set of rules. The math of the soul is not the math of the marketplace. With the currencies of the spirit, with peace, with wisdom, with resilience, with love, the law is reversed. The more you give away, the more you have. This isn't just a nice platitude. It is a deep, verifiable, spiritual law. Think about it in your own life. Have you ever been feeling anxious or worried, caught up in your own problems, and then you receive a call from a friend who is in an even deeper state of distress? You set aside your own worries for a moment to simply listen, to offer them a space of calm. You pour out what little peace you have to comfort them. And what happens when you hang up the phone? Do you feel more depleted? Or do you, almost miraculously, find that the very act of offering peace to another has somehow deepened the peace within your own heart? Your own anxieties seem smaller, more manageable. In comforting another, you yourself have been comforted. You gave away peace, and you ended up with more. Think about a time you tried to explain something you've learned to someone else. Maybe it was a life lesson you wanted to pass on to your child, or a piece of wisdom you shared with a colleague. In the act of articulating it for them, of finding the right words and the right story to make it clear, didn't that lesson become clearer and more profound in your own mind? You gave away your wisdom, and in doing so, your own understanding of it deepened. You taught, and you became a better student. And think about a time you were feeling weary and tired, but you dug deep to offer a word of encouragement or a small act of service to someone who was truly struggling. You chose to lend your strength when you felt you had little to spare, and in that act of lifting them up, didn't you discover a reserve of strength within yourself that you never knew you had? In helping them to stand, you found yourself standing taller. You gave away strength, and you became stronger. This is the divine paradox. Spiritual wealth is not a static resource like money in a bank account that gets depleted with each withdrawal. It is a dynamic, living energy, like a river. A river's purpose is to flow. If you dam it up, it becomes stagnant and lifeless. But as long as it is flowing out, it is constantly being replenished from its source. When you choose to become a blessing for others, you are not draining your own spiritual resources. You are simply becoming a clearer, wider channel for a limitless source of grace to flow through you. The act of giving away peace, wisdom, and strength doesn't empty your account. It deepens the channel, allowing the river to flow more abundantly. You become part of an eternal, life-giving current, and in the very process of nourishing the world around you, you yourself are constantly nourished. It's like a single candle in a dark room. A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. In fact, the very act of sharing its flame only serves to increase the amount of light in the room. This is the magnificent, joyful math of the soul. It's a world where the more you give, the richer you become. It is the only economy where generosity is the surest path to abundance. And it is an invitation for us to live with open hands, trusting that the source of all goodness is, and always will be, infinitely generous. And so, we arrive at the end of our journey together. We began with a simple, intriguing message on a screen, a promise of a heavenly check, a whisper of hope in a world filled with worry. We traveled from that initial promise to a deeper understanding, realizing that true blessings are not about material wealth, but about the profound currencies of peace, clarity, and resilience. We then learned that these blessings are not random gifts, but often the dividends paid out from a lifetime of our own faithfulness. We explored how to cultivate the garden of our soul through the quiet, daily rhythm of prayer, creating a space within ourselves to receive this grace. And finally, we discovered the beautiful, paradoxical secret of the spiritual life, that the blessings we receive are not meant to terminate with us, but to flow through us. We started this journey with a promise of a blessing for ourselves, and we end it with an invitation to become a blessing for someone else. This, in the end, is the truest legacy. When all is said and done, when the story of our life is written, the most important chapters will not be about what we accumulated for ourselves. The most enduring story will not be about the size of our bank account, the titles we held, or the things we owned. The story that will echo in the hearts of others, the legacy that will truly last, will be the story of what we gave away. It will be told in the moments we offered our presence, in the wisdom we shared, in the strength we lent. It will be a story measured not in dollars, but in grace. And so today, I want to leave you with one final invitation. This one isn't just a request to comment, but a gentle call to action, a chance to take everything we've talked about and make it real. Sometime in the next 24 hours, I invite you to consciously choose one of the 3 actions we discussed. Offer the gift of presence to one person, listening to them with your whole heart. Share the light of your wisdom with a word of humble experience or encouragement, or lend your strength with a small, practical act of service. Just one small act. And then, if you feel comfortable, I invite you to come back here to our small community and simply comment with 3 powerful words. I lived it. No details are necessary, no explanations are needed. Those 3 words will be a quiet testament, a signal to everyone else here that today, another person chose to become a conduit of grace. It will be the most powerful testimony of all, a quiet ripple of hope spreading out into the world. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Thank you for your time, your heart, and your willingness to explore these deeper truths. Peace be with you.